Hey folks, I don't know how many of y'all out there do the whole angel numbers thing. I had a conversation with somebody about I don't know, this is back in March maybe, or maybe it was last year. I can't quite remember. And they really opened up to me about angel numbers because my license plate number has an angel number on it, and she was very like, oh well, angels are telling you something, right? Uh, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I, me being an inquisitive, curious person, I was just like, well, okay, like, let's see what that's all about, right? And something that it reminded me about, right? Because, like, the whole concept of angel numbers, um, I'm sorry, I'm distracted by my eyewear because it keeps fogging up and I don't know why. Anyway, eventually it'll go away. Uh, where was I? Something that's interesting, right? So if you understand angel numbers, maybe you look at a clock, right, and it's 11:11, or you see a road sign and it's like 333. Repeating numbers usually. Although they can be combinations, right? Like I see 1144 a lot. Um, the numbers mean different things. I feel like there are different interpretations of what the numbers mean depending on who you talk to. So when I got curious about the subject, I just stuck to one source to just keep it, in my mind, the way I look at it as, and this is going to feed into sort of what I have to say in regards to tarot. Um, Creating new neural links because you're learning new languages, you're making new correlations in the world around you. Um, when talking about tarot, when talking about spiritual subjects, I try and approach it from a neurological standpoint, not because I think that there is no spirituality involved, but because I want to talk about it in a way that allows people who are really skeptical about the subject to be able to have an entry point in. I say this as somebody who, when I was a very young, devout Christian, right, I was one of those like apologist type Christians who would like try and find scientific ways to, explain stuff in the Bible and whatever. And like nowadays, I'm a, I'm just, I don't know what I am. And I'm okay with that actually. Like I have my own personal relationship with the universe. I have, a name that I evoke to talk about that relationship with the universe. Um, I have, and sometimes names, it just depends. I think that when we're talking about the spirit that brings us into existence, that manifests us, it's a multifaceted, multidisciplinary, infinite source, right? Like, I'm very much somebody who is, for me, the system of philosophy that I've been really connected with in the last couple of years has been Taoism, because Taoism is able to carry basically every faith in the world, because it's not really a faith, it's just like an interdisciplinary system built to allow those faiths to flourish. And I find that very beautiful. I find that very like, I think that there's something to that hints at what does the future of spirituality look like? What does the future of religion look like? But that's a whole other subject. I want to get back to my original thing, right? Angel numbers. So the reason I even bring that up is because if so for you, if you're somebody who's wanting to learn how to read tarot, I use tarot and tarot both interchangeably. I'm sorry if that annoys y'all. You know what my pronunciation is. Oh well. So, a great book that I actually would recommend to anybody wanting to learn more sort of like about that process of how you learn how your brain functions and how you discern meaning for yourself, because this is what I'm ultimately trying to get to here. When you're learning the angel numbers, tarot, math, Spanish, whatever it is, you are creating new neurological links in your brain. And those neurological links are not necessarily, like they're very nebulous. They're very plastic. You can form links of meaning between anything and anything, theoretically, right? And so anybody who's going through that sort of process, they are adjusting their reality through their neurology. And so a great book that I would recommend to anybody who is like interested. Here we go. Interested in these kinds of topics, I highly recommend Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. Some caveats about the book if you do read it. It was written by somebody in the 70s. So he makes some speculations that did not track out, right, in 2025. But the groundwork that he lays down, that Robert Anton Wilson lays down, is extremely useful for somebody who wants a more grounded approach to getting into these sorts of things, whether that is tarot. And he has some really interesting stuff in this book about tarot. Like, I learned a lot about a lot of different things. But anyway, in the book, he offers these exercises as you do this process of sort of connecting these neurological link-ups. And one of the exercises that he asks the reader to do is, each day, imagine in your mind, you look down at the sidewalk and you see a quarter, right? This exercise is not going to work as well nowadays, by the way, but it doesn't have to be a quarter. It could be whatever. This is kind of my point I'm going to get to. Imagine seeing a quarter on the ground, right? And then make that correlation with yourself. Did you imagining the quarter create the quarter showing up in your life, right? And so in that sense, for those who like to talk about, the concept of manifesting, which is a concept that intrigues me, and I like, as somebody who has had some experiences in sort of like Western occult magic, and just the general idea of like, how does our mind interact with our reality, right? I like that concept, but I actually find that the angel number stuff sort of works better for me, because it's more sort of like part of how I interact with the universe is feeling like I'm in a conversation with it. That's sort of my groundwork that I like to work from. I don't really necessarily jive all that well with sort of the Western occult magic concept that can sometimes be very ego inflating, and I don't know, it just makes me uncomfortable. I like the idea that I am in relationship with something. Relationship with something that's bigger than myself. And so, anyway, kind of going back to the book, Prometheus Rising, that was an experiment that I did practice, and I did happen to pick up a lot of quarters. But like I said, it doesn't have to be quarters. I don't know what you can find laying on the ground these days, because like coinage is not so popular, right? Everybody uses credit cards. Like when he wrote that experiment, that exercise, he wasn't thinking about like what that would be like in 40 years, right? Things have changed a lot. So you could do that exercise and say for yourself, you could imagine something else. I guess dollar bills. I don't know. What with inflation these days. But the idea is you can imagine for yourself coming across something that you might want, but like in a very small, very like easily approachable way, right? Maybe it's wildflowers, butterflies, whatever. This is for me like red cardinals or something that have like a personal meaning for me. When I see red cardinals, I always think of them as a good sign for the day ahead, the week ahead, whatever. That's how I feel like the universe talks to me. But it does, like when I say it, it does sound a little psychotic. A little bit, just like a little tiny bit psychotic. But like, that's spirituality. Like, I don't know. There's no easy way to put this. Like, if you're involving yourself into these subjects, you're going to be a little bit alienated from the rest of society because, like, not everybody looks at the world in that way. Or if they do not talk about it, right? I live in the South, so, like, a lot of people have their relationship with God, with Christ, whatever. And for them, that's largely mediated through the Bible. I don't personally relate to that practice. Not that there's anything wrong with the Bible necessarily. I just don't relate to that practice. I find that the practices that I relate to, there are multiple practices, largely involve me kind of shutting off my mind rather than engaging it. But with exception to something like tarot, like I find that tarot allows me to engage both mind and heart in intuition and allows me to connect with something that is bigger than myself, because it's a connection with the randomness of the universe. Although I have other theories around that. When talking about like shuffling decks and whatnot, I have some speculations around that. Anyway, that's another subject for another time. On this little Dharma talk, I just wanted to touch briefly on the idea of association, free association, which is crucial to tarot reading. Meaning, because going back to the angel numbers thing, right? There's a lot of different combinations of angel numbers. Like a little too much for my comfort level to where I go, well, you could derive meaning out of any combination of numbers if you wanted to. Like the timer on my smartphone had 1312 on it. All right, there's 1322, right? That could be meaningful. It could not be meaningful. Certain numbers are meaningful to me. Not every number is. 1111 I see all the time. Like, I see it at least twice a day. Like, what does that mean? And like I said, like, I have my own personal meaning when I see it. I set an intention, and then I move forward in the day. I think that's just a good practice anyway, regardless of whether or not there's numbers involved. There doesn't even have to be numbers involved. It's just like, oh, okay, you see that number, and it's a reminder. Set an intention. And then when you set an intention, you create a neurological link up for yourself that allows you to further entrench the good habits that you want to manifest a better life for yourself. That seems like a simple, like that's good enough reason to do something, in my mind. That's plenty good enough reason to do something. It doesn't have to even have a spiritual component to it, but you can. And that's we can go further into that topic in a later update. I just sort of wanted to hit on that real quick. We will do a reading, and there's two slips left in this bucket here. And I guess we're just going to go with Sagittarius. What's the last one? Find out next video. So we're going to do Sagittarius today. And what kind of reading are we going to do for Sagittarius? By the way, real quick, before I do this, if there are subjects that y'all want me to talk about in regards to not just tarot, but like sort of ideas and not so much Western occultism, and kind of, I mean, if you want to, there's some things that I like to talk about, but more like, you know, spiritual stuff. I'm happy to open up about it. I love talking about tarot. I love talking about like neurological stuff. The brain's fascinating to me. It's a fascinating thing. Creativity, that's another topic I love talking about. Okay, Sagittarius, we have a spirit path reading for you. And in the past, I would do spirit path readings with the Thoth Tarot deck, but I think I'm just going to do... We're just going to do basic Rider-Waite. Because I like Rider-Waite. Not everybody likes to use it, but I really like Rider-Waite. Devil on the bottom. What does that mean? Let's find out. Give me a second here. Okay, like I said before we started this reading, Devil was on the bottom of the deck. Devil is a card of oftentimes of obsession, fixation, you know, binds, like being in a bind, being in a situation where you can't seem to get yourself out of it, and you're just like caught between two things that neither are, you know, neither are a great situation. Like the Zen like to talk about the double bind. By the way, something I've kind of learned over time is like, a lot of times the solution that a lot of, you know, Zen teachers have in regards to the double bind is there's no such thing as a perfect solution. There's no such thing as a solution that is actually your way out. You just pick something. Either will do. All right, Sagittarius, there is your personal card. And you know, since we're going to do something instructional, or because I want to be a little more instructional for this reading, we're going to do Celtic Cross. So this is going to be your personal card. We're just going to lay this out here. This is, so what they would call present moment usually. This is the cross card, or like the challenge. This is conscious, subconscious. I'm going to have to raise this a bit so we can get more. Sorry, my work desk is a mess. Past, future, and we have to do the column. This is why I don't do Celtic Cross readings very often. But I did kind of want to do it for the Spirit Path reading because I don't think I've ever done this format. So, yeah, I'll move this out of the way. All right. So this is considered the cross. This is the column. Right? There's so many cards in the Celtic Cross reading, too. So this is card of, you know, it depends on who you ask. In this reading, this is going to be the card for the querent. This is basically my perspective in all this. This is outer environment card. This is hopes and fears. This is outcome, future. We'll go over it again. All right, Spirit Path reading. Let's do your Sagittarius. Let us do your present card, present moment. And this is going to be another subject we're going to talk about in a later date. I don't bother with reverse meanings. If the reverse meaning is really crucial, it'll come out in the reading generally. So, Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords is a card pertaining to new ideas, creativity, sometimes, new truths. But there's something going on in the realm of thought
in the realm of the mental, there's a new idea that's come for you, Sagittarius. Maybe you woke up this morning and you had an aha moment. That's oftentimes what an Ace of Swords moment is. Let's go back to your past for a moment. Ace of Pentacles. This idea is connected to something that was offered to you in the past. Something that you had received, or some seed you had planted. Something physical, something that, something that you got your hands dirty with. Not literally, not dirty in a bad, immoral way, but just, you got your hands in the soil. Maybe you did some work in the recent past, possibly volunteer work. Or maybe you just had maybe it was just a freelance job or something, some gig, right? And it's given you some ideas or exposed you to some new truths. It's interesting having two aces like this. All right, so we're going to do, now that we have past and present, we're going to do conscious and subconscious. Sort of how is this new idea impacting you in ways that you're aware of, in ways that you may not be so aware of? We'll start with what you're not so aware of. Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands is, this is a receptive, feminine intuition, inspiration, somebody who is also very charming, attractive, social butterfly. This is somebody who, looking at this reading currently, this idea has something to do in regards to some sort of spiritual, this being a spirit path reading anyway, some kind of spiritual impulse, some sort of intuitive impulse. You're not really sure what it's about yet, but it's pretty big. This is a very meaningful idea for you. And it precedes something that is going to be part of your path going forward. What are you aware of? Three of Swords. Swords. In this particular reading, right, Three of Swords is usually about romance gone sour, sadness, despair, breakups, that kind of thing. But this being a spirit path reading, I think this is more about past disappointments. This idea is having to do something with, trauma, working through trauma in some way. You've gotten some idea of what you can do to work through anxieties, despair that has kind of haunted you for a while. So this is a very crucial, important idea for you in your spiritual development right now. All right, this is the challenge card, Queen of Swords. So a challenge for you right now is kind of being detached from this process. There's a certain amount of emotional volatility that you're working through still. This idea is important, it's crucial to you, and it's awakening something deep inside, right, that is going to help you in your spiritual development. But right now, the tricky part is you're kind of having to cut through all the BS. Sort of it's something that I talk about and will be talking about a lot in these videos. I think people who get engaged with the more mystical, highly nuanced, ambiguous areas, you can get kind of lost in it. You can get lost into some really weird places. So a challenge for you right now is practicing discernment. Having the clarity to make sure that this idea isn't just delusional, right? And that takes a lot of work. And that can even lead to disappointments where you go, oh, you know what? Like, I was totally full of crap. This was a dead end, right? So you're worried. There's a certain amount of worry based on things that happened to you in the past. Maybe it's religious trauma, right? That this idea could just be another, errant path. And so you're trying to cultivate for yourself this Queen of Swords energy that allows you to see straight through the BS and know, like, okay, is this real? Is this not real? This is something everybody goes through when they're developing a relationship with something deeper than just, an organized religion, right? So this is your future card. More swords. Hope you like swords. 8 of Swords. This is pretty much a confirmation of what I just been saying. 8 of Swords is a card of what your mental traps, your mental prisons. Part of those mental prisons can be, what are you how are you disempowering yourself? Because you want to be here, but you're here. And part of that is figuring out how to remove the blindfold, remove what's binding you, right? And then when you see how loosely knitted this cage of swords is, you can just walk out. But you have to remove the blindfolds first. And so swords is like air energy. It's all about sort of like hyperfluidity, mercurial nature, mercurial qualities, a very ever-changing landscape. And it's often an invisible landscape, much like the brain, right? The gateless gate. So I would say right now, what you're dealing with on your spiritual path here is working through a lot of these mental difficulties, right? It's like right now, unconsciously, you're going like, I'm waking up to this. I'm waking up to this fiery, wands-inspired, intuitive energy. But first I have to, and when I say intuition, we're going beyond logic, right? When you start tapping into the Tao, when you start tapping into, those things that are bigger than yourself, you're going beyond something that you can explain to people. And now it's just you, right? An 1111 appeared on the timer. What does it mean? So I'm going to set a quick attention for myself right now to make sure that I do the best damn reading I can for y'all. Here is the Querence card. So this is me, Hanged Man, card of perspective, switched perspective, right? Trying to see it from your angle. Trying to see it, trying to put myself in the other person's shoes and sort of suspending myself. Very airy kind of quality to it too, a lot of mentality, right? You are, and how does this relate to you, right? You're having to do your own work, trying to switch your own perspectives and go well, is this guy full of crap? What is all this, right? Practicing good discernment. Always questioning. Questioning is an important, crucial part of cultivating discernment. Now, you can question and doubt to the point that you can't trust anything, right? You don't want to be there, but you do need to be able to have that ability to say, how much do I believe this? How much does this actually resonate with me? How much does this actually, how meaningful is this to me? So Sagittarius, I have to say, there is a lot of doubt present. There's a lot of questioning present, and I think that's all good and healthy. I think that's part of cultivating any good spiritual path, is having a moment where you're just I don't know about any of this crap, right? And the way that ultimately, is what works and what does not work for you, right? That is the only way that you have to be totally practical about it. So this is outer influences, the environment. This card I'm about to pull here. This card deals with what outside of this reading and the reader is impacting, and outside of you, right, is impacting this whole enchilada, right? High Priestess. This is an interesting card to pull on this. High Priestess is a card of, the intuitive, the inner knower, it is a card of divine feminine, a card of mystery in the unknown. But I say the unknown, it's going back to what I was saying earlier, where the High Priestess is somebody who knows, and they cannot explain to you how they know, but they know. Looking at this card, this is, I would say, a further confirmation of something I talked about earlier, of like, there's somebody in your life, right? Your Queen of Wands was awakened by this person. There's somebody that you met in your life, somebody that that you've known, or maybe you've seen on YouTube. Maybe it was another tarot reader. Maybe it was just like a person you ran into on the street. Maybe a previous lover, a grandmother, who knows? But somebody who really inspired you towards this path to cultivate your own inner knowing. And this has had a big influence on you. Next card in the pillar. This is your hopes and fears. This is, and it's interesting that's, hopes and fears is one card. So what I have to say about that is sometimes what you're hoping for and what you're afraid of are the same thing. Sometimes it's, maybe it's something you have to like figure out for yourself in the moment. 10 of Cups. Wow. What I'm getting from this being in the hopes and fears category, right? I think that for you, Sagittarius, or whoever this reading's resonating with, maybe you got Sagittarius in your chart, who cares? I don't know. Person you might be afraid of is an end to the calm and the happiness that's in your life currently. And possibly what you're hoping for too is that, as you cultivate this spiritual path, it's going to lead to this place of great happiness. But I can tell you with a little bit of personal experience that you have to learn to take the good with the bad, right, in these sorts of things. And you have to, something that's very important to cultivate is a sense of, sometimes bad things happen and they lead to really great things later on. And sometimes really great things happen and they might lead to bad things later on. That's part of life, buddy. That is part of life. And, going back to cultivating that inner knowing is being in a place where you can look inward and say, like, I can do this. I can deal with this. I'm not afraid of the result, whatever the result is. I can live this life. So here's the outcome card on your Spirit Path reading, Sag. This is, I'm kind of, this is another thing with Celtic cross readings that I get kind of annoyed with, because you have a future card and you have an outcome card, right? Generally, people like to explain this as the future card is sort of like what happens into your immediate future. So like as we were going through this reading, right? Certainly in your immediate future, there is a difficulty you're having seeing your way out of the mental constrictions you have for yourself in the spirit path, because you're dealing with a lot of these kind of confusing and also kind of self-alienating ideas that might put you at odds with society. But you're not at odds, and I remind you again, you're not at odds with the vision that inspired you in the first place. You're not at odds with the part of yourself, and the part that I'm tapping into in this reading, the part of yourself that is trying to look at it from multiple different perspectives and be, multifaceted as a human being. So going back to your outcome card, Nine of Pentacles. That's a great outcome card. If you continue following on the spiritual path, it's going to lead towards a very beautiful place of self-sufficiency. You're going to find yourself in a position where you're getting your earthly needs met. Kind of leaves an open question to your spiritual needs. But that's an ever-evolving process, right? But at the very least, you're going to find yourself in a place of independence, in a place of self-sufficiency, in a place of also like eating good, like living good. You know, you're going to have a very enjoyable life moving on. So, Sagittarius, that is my reading for you today. This is a lot of fun. More later. More on the evolving story as we go forward into life. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful rest of your day. And we will talk again soon, all right? Bye.